local history, local culture, local events, your community. This is the Joe Kelly Show.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the show. Glad you could join us. Our guest is Oneida County Sheriff Robert Maciol. I should say the newly re-elected Oneida County Sheriff Robert Maciol. Good to see you.
Same here. Thank you for having me today.
That was an overwhelming victory. You've got to be very pleased, yes?
Extremely pleased. The confidence from the voters of Oneida County was overwhelming, and I could not be more grateful. Truly an honor to continue to serve as your sheriff, the sheriff of Oneida County, and I'll be starting year 13 as the sheriff here on January 1st.
Yeah.
So.
Who's going to swear you in?
I'm not sure yet. My wife and I were talking about that. It was a long campaign season. We had several get-togethers, more than usual, which you do in election years. So I think this time probably going to do just something small with the family. Mm-hmm. It was different when I remember when we first got elected. It'll be 13 years ago. We had a swearing-in ceremony in the ceremonial courtroom at the Oneida County Courthouse. It was standing room only,
mm-hmm.
Because I think it was just a whole, it was a significant change coming on, but I think we're going to probably do something small. Not quite sure yet. But.
Will somebody actually swear you in?
Yes, I've always had a judge of some kind. 4 years ago, Supreme Court Judge Neary swore me in because he and I had started together a project we worked on, the CAP Court, the Centralized Arraignment Court in Oneida County. So that was kind of a symbolic thing. He swore me in the Centralized Arraignment Court up at the Oneida County Jail, and it was just something, so it was always, usually we pick a reason but we'll keep it simple this year, I think.
Now the Undersheriff Lisi, Chief Deputy Owens, are they staying?
They're staying, and along with Chief Deputy Rick O'Mara, he oversees the Child Advocacy Center. As you know, Chief Owens, he oversees the patrol and civil divisions. And then Chief Lisa Zurich, she oversees the corrections division. So nothing's changing. The only bittersweet thing for my administration is my secretary, my longtime secretary, Sue Gotting, is retiring. Sue and I worked together. She was the village clerk in Whitesboro for several years when I was a police officer there. When I became the sheriff, she came on board with me. That as the confidential secretary to the sheriff, that's a position that requires trustworthiness and loyalty, and just someone you can really rely on. And she's amazing. But she learned in February, early on, I think in the year January, February, something like that of this year we're exiting now, that she was actually losing money by coming to work. With her age and her time in the system. But she wouldn't abandon me until the election was over, which is incredible, and I'm grateful to her for that.
So. Now, are you setting a record? I'm trying to think.
No.
Sheriff Hasenauer.
When I complete this term I'm going into,
right,
I will be tied with Sheriff Midoff for the second longest serving.
All right.
Sheriff Hasenauer, he had about 18 and a half years as the sheriff. So he's our longest serving since we started in 1798. Right. But Sheriff Hasenauer, if you remember, he was actually sworn in. He was a former undersheriff to Sheriff, my mind's drawing a blank here.
Piccola?
Chubby Piccola was the sheriff, and he left before his term was up. So that's how Sheriff Hasenauer got the odd number. So it was about 18 and a half years he served as the sheriff.
And Dan Midaw came up on the corrections route, if I recall.
Correct. He was a corrections officer, moved up through the ranks, and he was the sheriff for 16 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what a lot of people don't understand about the sheriff's office, as you say, 1798, it is an elected office, not a department. There's something about the way it sounds. The Oneida County Sheriff's Department just kind of rings out, but it's the United County Sheriff's Office.
Yes, people traditionally, when you talk about police, instinctively you want to say police department.
Yeah.
But with the sheriff, it's the sheriff's office, like the district attorney's office. It's an independently elected position. It's the oldest elected office in our local government nationwide, and it's the highest ranking law enforcement official in each county. There's 62 counties in New York, but there's 58 sheriffs. because the boroughs in New York, the 5 boroughs all combine and they have one appointed sheriff. And across the country, there's about 3,000 sheriffs, but it's pretty neat that, little old me here, I'm nobody special, but I'm only one of 3,000 sheriffs across the entire United States of America, and that's truly an honor. And it's like I said, it's a great job, challenging at times. Probably the last 2 or 3 years have been the most challenging in so many different ways.
And I would guess that the drug situation, the bail reform situation, are reasons for that challenge?
Yeah, the heroin epidemic is continuing across this country. We have a great group here dealing with that. Gun violence is continuing to be, in cities across the country. We are no different here in this county with our we have 3 cities, but our 2 cities where the gun crime is occurring. We have an awesome partnership with UTICA PD. We work with them side by side in so many different ways, whether it's the GIVE program, which is gun-involved violence elimination, where we assign deputies to work the hot spots in Utica with UPD. We have a joint SWAT team. We have a joint narcotics team. We have a joint dive team. We have a joint mobile field force for any public disruptions where you need a large amount of people. So our collaboration, our cooperation, the partnership is stronger than it's ever been with the Utica Police Department.
In fact, I saw a picture of you and Utica Police Chief Mark Williams and a bunch of other law enforcement people. You met with Senator Griffo.
Yes, Senator Griffo brought us together along with the new interim superintendent of the state police for a roundtable discussion to try to figure out how can we, when I say we, everybody, do more to get things under control, because it's a struggle, as you know, with bail reform. It's very frustrating for us, but not only on the crime side of things, but also the hiring process. I mean, it is more difficult now to get people interested in the law enforcement career than ever before. In each of the agencies, whether it's us in Utica and Rome and New Hartford and the state police, we're all competing for the same recruits, and it's a different generation now. There's just so many different factors that are.
We're going to talk about, you've come up with a innovative approach on the correction side. We'll talk about that when we come back. But I see there's a new commander of Troop D.
Yes, I just learned that yesterday, that our major is, he's only been with us about a year and a half. He was promoted to a staff inspector, and we're getting a new major coming in. So those are always good. I mean, again, bittersweet, because we've got to learn I've got to meet the new guy and learn how he works, and hopefully continue to build on our positive relationship.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. Sheriff Rob Maciol is our guest. We're going to talk about legalization of marijuana, snowmobile patrol, and a lot of other stuff. Short break, right back. And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Oneida County Sheriff Robert Maciol is our guest. He just reelected to another term. And if I added it up correctly the other day, you are the 61st sheriff in Oneida County.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the first one was Coltrane or?
Colbrath? I'm not
Colbrath.
sure if I'm pronouncing
Colbrath. Yeah.
He was actually a shared sheriff between Oneida and Herkimer at the time. So it's funny, we're talking about consolidation today, but in 1798 there was one sheriff, because they couldn't find a sheriff initially, that was serving both counties.
Yeah. The innovative approach that you've taken for corrections, because you were really having a difficult time getting corrections officers.
Yes.
Explain that.
Sure. We have about 70 vacancies in the corrections division. We're running at about a 32 to 34% vacancy rate with employees, which in itself is a huge problem, because that creates mandatory overtime for everybody else that's working, because unlike a retail store or a restaurant, I mean, you could change your hours, you could close one day, you could do a lot of things. In a correctional facility and law enforcement, we're open 24/7. We have mandated posts that have to be manned every single day because it's inside a jail. So what we were able to do, because not only us, but there were 12 other counties facing the same significant staffing shortages in New York State. Civil Service agreed to a pilot program where basically, in lieu of taking a civil service exam, which you have to recruit people to sign up. You usually get a month notice. You take the exam. It takes another 3 months to get the results back. Then we have to do backgrounds and polygraphs and psychologicals. So to hire someone from the time they actually took the test is somewhere between 6 and 8 months, which gets very frustrating for people. If we're lucky enough to find someone to work, they want to start working now. They don't want to wait 6 or 8 months. So what the state agreed to do is for one time to see how it goes, instead of taking a civil service exam that some people don't pass, some people don't score all that well on. Basically, if you meet the minimum requirements, the correct age, you have to be at least 18. You have to live in Oneida County or the 5 contiguous counties, and you have to have either a high school diploma or a GED. If you have those 3 basic components, you automatically get a 70 on the exam, which is a passing grade. And then any life experiences or training you have, college degree, military, maybe security officer, anything like that, adds to your 70. So, and then they establish a list. So there's no test to take. You merely sign up for the application process. If you get approved, they would have sent you a link. You fill out your questionnaire to see what life experiences you have, and then by the end of this month, we will have a list established based off of that. So right there in itself, we are going to chop off about 3 to 4 months of the process, and then we can immediately begin backgrounds on people. So we're hoping, if this works well, the state will let us continue to do this, so that, because again, not only for us, but in this case, 12 other counties in New York are facing significant staffing shortages at their sheriff's offices.
Is that a result of state corrections officers getting more money, better benefits?
It's part of it. That is part of it. We lose people to state corrections, but it's also the career itself has gotten a bad rap, law enforcement in general, the negativity, the long hours, and sometimes in many cases, people don't feel as though they're being compensated enough. They feel as though, elected officials at various levels don't have, are not supportive enough of law enforcement. We see that in other parts of the country, especially. So it's become extremely challenging for all of us to recruit people into this career. And we're hoping that if this works, that we can get something similar for the law enforcement division, because there we are also facing staffing shortages, like police departments and sheriff's offices, not only across the state, but across the country.
What about the Oneida County Road Patrol? How are you doing there?
We are down about 9 positions, which doesn't seem like a big number, but when you're talking various squads that have to cover, towns, villages, and depending on what's going on, into the various cities, that's an entire squad. So again, what that does is creates overtime for everybody else, because not only are we patrolling the streets, but all the various responsibilities we have within the sheriff's office, plus a lot of outside details that the community relies on us to be there for them.
Now, who governs the pay rate for corrections and road patrol? As
the sheriff, obviously we have 2 unions, one for corrections, one for law enforcement division. It's what we call, I'm a dual employer. So the employee, whether they're a corrections officer or a deputy sheriff, they work for Oneida County, but obviously they work for the Oneida County Sheriff. So I'd run the day-to-day operations. Obviously it's the equipment, the assignments, the staffing, all the organizational things, the logistical things. That's all happening by us. It's administered by me and my administrative staff. But at the end of the day, the county controls the money, the purse strings, and that not only includes salaries, but benefit package. So that's why I'm a dual employer. When labor negotiations go on, there's 3 parties at the table. It's the membership, the union, and then the sheriff, that's me and my team, and then the county executive and his representative. So it's it's a longer process. There's more people at the table, and it does at times become very challenging because, again, at the end of the day, I don't control the money.
Yeah, it's complicated too.
It does complicate things a little bit.
And you know, I don't know if this is a good segue to this or not, but I've often thought that it was complicated, maybe that's not the right word, in the way the sheriff does his business. In other words, he is or she an elected official, and yet a professional law enforcement person.
Yes.
And so, you see where I'm going with this?
Sure, and again, I think it's very unique because it gives the community, the people, the opportunity to choose who they want their chief law enforcement officer to be. So that's in my opinion, that's a good thing. A police chief, on the other hand, once they obtain civil service status as the police chief and they get through their probation, as long as they're doing their job without any complication, they're there for as long as they want to be there. Where if I'm doing something that the community doesn't like, they vote me out.
Even if it's the right thing.
Exactly. If it's something that's not popular with the community, you'd be voted out of office like any other elected official.
I thought it was this similar situation. District attorney, judges, they're supposed to not be involved with politics, but the system puts them into politics.
And it's still I see your point, because judges shouldn't be picking a side, as the sheriff shouldn't be picking a side, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, conservative, whatever the case may be, because with that party affiliation comes some of the beliefs of that party, And again, I've always voted for the person, although I do have some pretty significant foundational things that I live by each and every day when I do my job.
And I noted on the ballot this year, you ran as a Democrat and a conservative, which is kind of
very unusual.
Very unusual.
It is, but my democratic value is probably the one that stands out the most. We have an obligation to help people in a time of need, so that's kind of where that comes from. My job is to help people, whether it's someone that's overdosing, whether that's someone is a victim of a crime. So my democratic values lie there. The conservative side, I'm a gun guy. I've been pro-gun my entire adult life. I've carried a gun on my body everywhere I've gone, since I was legally able to. I believe that people, as long as they're legal, stable, law-abiding citizens, they should be able to possess a firearm of their choice, or firearms of their choice. I'm against the legalization of marijuana. It's legal, and I get that. We've gone through the process. But if you recall, when the debate was going on for those 3 or 4 years, I was always against that. Obviously, I'm against bail reform, strongly against bail reform, because it's made us less safe. So those are the values that got me the significant support of the conservatives of Oneida County, and the numbers just it showed it clearly that we had that.
When we come back, let's talk about snowmobile patrol, and let's talk about Narcan. Am I pronouncing Narcan?
Sure.
And DWI. This is the season. Sure. A lot of people are out celebrating. The Oneida County Sheriff is our guest, Rob Maciol. We'll come back and talk right after this. And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Oneida County Sheriff Robert Maciol is our guest. Narcan.
Yes.
I was talking to the Captain Michael Harrington of Salvation Army.
Yep.
He was a recent guest. He apologized for being a few minutes late. Somebody collapsed in their parking lot up on Clinton Place, and he administered that Narcan. Probably saved the guy's life. What is Narcan?
Narcan is basically a substance that is it's not harmful. So if by chance you gave it to someone that's not overdosing, it's not going to affect them at all. But Narcan will actually reverse the effects of a heroin overdose. And to simplify it, it's a nasal spray. It's extremely easy to use. It does come with an instruction sheet and a little package, but again, you don't even need that. It's literally a nasal spray. And what it does is, like I said, it almost instantly reverses the effects of an overdose. So what we've done, and we've come so far with our opiate task force here in Oneida County, whether we're talking, the county, led by the county executive and the district attorney and I, but law enforcement, the medical field, the service providers in our community, the county health department, county mental health, just an amazing group of people that have come together. But we've distributed Narcan, whether it be to families of people who are currently dealing with an addiction issue, retail stores. We've actually gone around to stores and given it to stores so they have it on hand. There's public dispensary devices that are out in over 100 different locations, similar to an AED type box, where it's available. And I do have critics out there because I argue with one or two of them on a pretty consistent basis. They believe that if someone's overdosing and if they were dumb enough to stick a needle in their arm, or however they explain this to me, that we should leave them there and let them be. Well, you know what? That's not going to happen here under our watch, under my watch. Addiction it's a disease. I mean, someone is fighting a terrible disease. We've got to work to erase the stigma of that. But that person on the ground, and this is how I can convince people that, yeah, we are doing the right thing. That person on the ground is someone's mother or father, son, daughter, brother, sister. It's our obligation to save their life. So, by every member of the sheriff's office being trained in carrying Narcan to, like I said, everyday people in the community, that 1 or 2 doses of Narcan is going to bring that person back. And you know what? Maybe that'll be the one time that'll get them into treatment and get them to get through their addiction. Maybe they'll overdose 2 or 3 times before they realize that, we've got to take a different path here. But like I said, we have an obligation to help people in a time of need.
Took me 3 times to quit cigarettes.
Sure, absolutely. And it's like I said, we've got to erase the stigma because there are so many families that are being destroyed by this heroin epidemic, and we need to do everything we can to help them.
This is the Christmas season. A lot of people are out partying and celebrating. How many beers does it take for somebody to be DUI?
Well, it depends on the person. Everybody is different. Your metabolism is different. I'm a big guy. I'm 270 pounds. You would think that it would take a lot of alcohol to get me intoxicated, but I don't drink. So, a couple 2 or 3 beers, I'm going to be in a condition you probably wouldn't recognize. So everybody's different, and people have to know their limitations. But in today's day and age, we used to talk about taxis. We still talk about taxis. But with Uber and all these different services that are out there, there is no reason that people should be drinking and driving. It's very simple. It's 3 words. Have a plan. Whether it's staying all night where the party is, whether it's having a prearranged ride, like I said, whether it's taking a taxi, whether it's hiring an Uber, whatever the case may be. If you're going to drink, that's your business. If you're going to drink and drive, that's our business. And we are lucky here that between law enforcement and the district attorney's office, it is a 0 tolerance for drinking and driving in Oneida County. So we want people to have a plan. Also, the people hosting these parties, they have a responsibility to ensure that no one is leaving their place driving away in an intoxicated state, because that can come back on them both civilly and criminally if something were to happen.
Yeah. The marijuana law, we've only got a short time left, but you've said in the past that you're not in favor of legalization, but it's going to happen.
It's here.
Yeah.
Sadly, though, once again, New York State, it's legalized, it's here, but there's no regs out for it. There's no regulations out yet. So we know there are places in this community that are selling it right now, and they don't have the license to sell it because, again, there's no regulations put out by the state. The one thing we're going to have to keep watch on is the illegal stuff, the underground market or the black market, or however you want to refer to it as, where the stuff is going to continue to be sold on the street, the marijuana that's not regulated, that's not tested, that could be laced with fentanyl, that could be laced with something else, but people typically will go that route because there's no taxes and it's much cheaper to purchase. So it's going to be a challenge for law enforcement. Look, I was against it. Everyone knows that, but it's here now, and we're going to have to figure out how to deal with it. And our goal is to keep people safe.
Snowmobile patrol. When do they get out there?
It's starting soon. As soon as the hunting season is clear, because we don't open any trails in our county until the hunters are done, because the last thing we want to have is some type of encounter or accident between snowmobilers and hunters. But we have over 650 miles of groomed snowmobile trails. We've got the snow, as you know, so we're hoping that actually on the 27th of December, we'll be doing our annual snowmobile safety press conference. We'll kick the season off up in Camden this year. We're going to go. We move around each year, and we bring the snowmobile clubs together and try to get the basic rules out to the snowmobilers, because those 650 miles of trails, most of them are on private property, and we need to ensure that the snowmobilers are respecting the private property owners, because without those properties and farmers and other people in the rural parts of this county, you wouldn't have a snowmobile trail system.
And every now and then you'll see, I can think of one in particular, every now and then you'll see a property owner say, nope, that's it.
Yeah, because usually it's someone who is going off the trail, someone who's leaving garbage, someone who's speeding, someone who's got those loud modified exhausts. Those are the things that because we have a snowmobile patrol, we have 4 snowmobiles in our unit, we have to work with our partners at Environmental Conservation Police and the State Police to ensure that everyone's following the rules on those trails so they don't get shut down.
Always good seeing you. Thanks for coming in.
Same here. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week. We'll do it all again. Don't forget cnyhomepage.com. Lots of good stuff there. Until next time, take care of yourself, everybody.